constituency, Varanasi, where the Prime Minister is slated to inaugurate a slew of development projects. He already did some work in Gorakhpur, where there were the Vande Bharat trains that were inaugurated by the Prime Minister. Along with that, when he reaches Kashi, when he reaches Varanasi, there are other projects which will be inaugurated, including the modernization of Manikarnika Ghat. The entire activity needs to be seen in the context of the infrastructure and the development push that the government has been talking about. How can we forget the perspective that the elections are just around the corner and the three crucial assembly elections in the state of Madhya Pradesh and Telangana, the fourth state, infrastructure push is going to be a very important point in plank for the BJP to present to the people and say, look, this is the work that we've done. All eyes on the crucial visit of the Prime Minister. He's expected to reach Varanasi in just a few minutes from now. We'll continue tracking that. My colleagues also getting you all the reports. We'll be joined by special guests on this broadcast as well. First, let's begin by listening to what UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath and Prime Minister Narendra Modi earlier said.
हमारा सौभाग्य है कि हम सभी इस मानवीय मिशन की शताब्दी के साक्षी बन रहे हैं। इस ऐतिहासिक अवसर पर ही हमारी सरकार ने गीता प्रेस को गांधी शांति पुरस्कार भी दिया है। गांधी जी का गीता प्रेस से भावनात्मक जुड़ाव था। एक समय में गांधी जी कल्याण पत्रिका के माध्यम से गीता प्रेस के लिए लिखा करते थे।
गीता प्रेस अपने 100 वर्ष की एक शानदार यात्रा को लेकर के आगे बढ़ा है और शानदार यात्रा में इन 100 वर्षों में विगत 75 वर्षों में कोई प्रधानमंत्री गीता प्रेस में आज तक नहीं आ पाया, क्योंकि गीता प्रेस भारत की मूल आत्मा को झंकृत करता है, उसको जागृत करने का कार्य करता रहा है और उसे पहली बार भारत के किसी यशस्वी प्रधानमंत्री जी के द्वारा सम्मान दिया गया है। यह न केवल गीता प्रेस का बल्कि भारत की उस हर धरोहर का सम्मान है जो हमारी पहचान है और जो भारत को एक नई पहचान के साथ आगे बढ़ाने का कार्य करता है।
Well, we have Mr. Krishna Kumar, who's the trustee of Gita Press, joining us on the broadcast. Professor Braj Bhushan Ojha, who's the trustee of the Kashi Vishwanath Mandir, is also joining us on the broadcast. Good evening to both of you. नमस्कार, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया हमसे बात करने के लिए। प्रोफेसर ब्रिज भूषण जी, सबसे पहले मैं आपके पास आऊंगी। प्रधानमंत्री का एक अहम दौरा है अपनी कंस्टिट्यूएंसी में, बहुत सारे विकास के कार्य हैं, डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं, हरीशचंद्र घाट हो या मणिकर्णिका घाट हो, उनके आधुनिकीकरण की, उनके डेवलपमेंट की और रीडेवलपमेंट की बात की जा रही है। ये कहीं ना कहीं पूरे काशी विश्वनाथ कॉरिडोर डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट से जुड़े हुए कदम है। कैसे देखते हैं प्रधानमंत्री के इस पूरे दौरे को? क्या अपेक्षा, क्या उम्मीदें हैं आपकी?
सभी को बहुत बहुत प्रणाम। ये बहुत गौरव का विषय है कि हमारे काशी के माननीय सांसद हैं और भारत के यशस्वी प्रधानमंत्री काशी से जुड़े हुए जितने भी चीज हैं उनको
सर, हम आपको देख भी पा रहे हैं और सुन भी पा रहे हैं, आप बोलिए।
जितने भी चीज है उसको सजा रहे हैं, संवार रहे हैं। देखिए, अभी भव्य दिव्य काशी विश्वनाथ धाम बन के तैयार हुआ। बहुत से सड़कें थी जो खराब हो चुकी थी, गलियां, गंदी गलियां थी, सबको अच्छे से बनाया और उनकी प्रेरणा से आज काशी वस्तुतः काशी बन गई है। और मैं आज ये देख रहा हूं, जो जीवन से जुड़ी हुई चीज है उसको तो ठीक किया ही, जहां आदमी अंतिम समय में जाता है वहां पर भी हमारे देश के प्रधानमंत्री का ध्यान है। और निश्चित रूप से ये मणिकर्णिका का, हरिश्चंद्र घाट का ये जीर्णोद्धार होना, उसको व्यवस्थित होना, ये एक दूरदर्शी प्रधानमंत्री ही कर सकता है। जो देश के यशस्वी प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी इस कार्य को कर रहे हैं, तो एक काशीवासी होने के नाते हम सभी काशीवासी उनके कृतज्ञ हैं, उनके ऋणी है कि काशी को, जो बाबा विश्वनाथ का धाम है, उसको वस्तुतः एक स्वच्छ बनाया। चाहे वो आध्यात्मिक चेतना हो, चाहे वो शैक्षिक चेतना हो, सबको एक अलग दृष्टि दी और एक प्रेरणा स्रोत है हम सबके लिए
जी।
कि भारत में ऐसा भी कार्य हो सकता है। और यदि ऐसे प्रधानमंत्री हमको मिलते रहे तो निश्चित रूप से काशी ही क्या, भारत का प्रत्येक क्षेत्र आज उत्कृष्टता का अनुभव कर रहा है।
देखिए,
तो निश्चित रूप से इस
काशी
अवसर
का
पर
डेवलपमेंट तो
हम
होना
सभी
चाहिए था, और अभी
उनके
नहीं,
कृतज्ञ।
काफी काफी दशकों पहले होना चाहिए। मेरा मेरा आप दोनों से निवेदन है, हमारे साथ बने रहिए। आई ऑल्सो वांट टू इंट्रोड्यूस माय कॉलीग्स अमन शर्मा एंड पाल मेहता इनटू द डिस्कशन. They have been tracking the prime minister's visit, what the thinking is within the BJP, to give us an overall perspective. Aman, first to you. Talking about the infrastructure push that the Prime Minister has given. Yes, this is about the cultural diversity. This is about religious tourism that the Prime Minister has also spoken of earlier. What does this visit signify to you, and what would its importance really be in the run-up to the assembly elections? Many call it the semi-final to 2024.
See, the Prime Minister is visiting 4 states in the next today and tomorrow as well, and
Yeah.
these visits also have to be seen in the light of what he told the Council of Ministers meeting just on Monday. The government is going in with a complete infra push before the 2024 Lok Sabha elections. In fact, the Prime Minister was very clear in that meeting that all pending big infrastructure projects, and Anusha, we are learning that close to 500 big projects could be inaugurated by the Prime Minister and other ministers in, and the deadline for that is January 26, 2024. Around 40 mega projects out of them would be inaugurated by the Prime Minister itself. Some of these projects we are seeing being inaugurated by the Prime Minister during his current visit to Chhattisgarh, to UP, to Rajasthan, to other states. See, the basic, what Prime Minister is impressing upon everybody is that पॉलिसी बनाने से पूरा काम नहीं होता है, परिणाम भी दिखने चाहिए. So people need to feel the benefits on the ground. People need to see these infrastructure projects rolling out. What I have actually learned that PM told the ministers कि अगले 9 महीने एक 9 महीने की यात्रा है, when the ministers need to go to the ground, get these projects on the ground, tell the people that okay, this all we have done for you, this all what the Modi government has done for you. And I think I also in past elections we will see in these elections also the PM visits poll bound states, and a slew of infrastructure projects is done to also showcase that double engine government, that it is a center which is bringing development to these states. All this is part of that plan, and I think going ahead we will see more and more visits of the PM to states like Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh and Telangana, and a slew of infrastructure projects could be rolled out in these states.
Pile, a brief word from you. 9 महीने की एक यात्रा है जो प्रधानमंत्री ने भी बात की. 500 development projects that we are looking at up till 2026 that Aman pointed out. You also reported on a lot of organizational changes which are happening within BJP. We also have somebody from Geeta Press with us on the broadcast, Krishna Kumarji, and the Prime Minister today, Pal, was also present at the celebrations of Geeta Press, and an important message from that state as well.
Well, absolutely. The Prime Minister spoke about it, and he's very well aware of the fact that the Congress party made a huge issue about this. You saw the attack coming in from Jairam Ramesh, who is, of course, the communications chief. He made an issue about this, and the Prime Minister said that Geeta Press was extremely close to the heart of the father of the nation, and he had a great connection with that. And that's one of the reasons this government had decided to, give that award that they've actually announced as well. So there are certain things which have to go beyond, opposition, beyond controversy, beyond being opposed to just for the heck of it. That is what the message of the Prime Minister has been as far as this issue is concerned, and on several issues as well. He's also, if you remember, in the past, Amit Shah and the Prime Minister have both attacked the Congress party, saying, are you opposing the Ram Mandir? Why is it that certain leaders were opposing the Ram Mandir? Why is it that certain leaders are opposing the UCC even without knowing what the UCC bill is all going to be about?
True, true. कृष्ण कुमार जी, आपके पास आऊंगी. गीता प्रेस को जब सम्मान मिला, अवार्ड मिला, बहुत सारी राजनीतिक उसमें कंट्रोवर्सीज भी आई, अलग अलग लोगों ने अलग अलग किस्म की बात की. उस समय भी मैंने आपसे बात की थी, गीता प्रेस के बहुत सारे लोगों से बात की थी, और उन्होंने कहा था कि हम राजनीतिक पार्टियों के ऊपर किसी भी तरीके का आक्षेप नहीं करना चाहते, बयानबाजी नहीं करना चाहते. आज प्रधानमंत्री ने मंच से एक बहुत बड़ा मैसेज दिया. उन्होंने बोला कि कहीं ना कहीं राष्ट्र के निर्माण में और एक सांस्कृतिक चरित्र के निर्माण में गीता प्रेस का एक बहुत बड़ा योगदान रहा है और आगे भी रहेगा. प्रधानमंत्री के पूरे संदेश को आप कैसे देखते हैं?
नमस्कार।
नमस्कार.
प्रधानमंत्री जी ने एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण बात बताई आज। आपका ध्यान आकर्षित कर रहा हूँ, विरासत और विकास का संगम. ये राष्ट्र में विरासत, गीता प्रेस विरासत है. गीता प्रेस की जो ये संभावनाएं हैं, उसका जो सद्भाव है, उसका जो मानव मात्र के कल्याण के लक्ष्य के लिए योजनाएं हैं, ये प्रधानमंत्री जी ने जो स्पष्ट कहा है कि ये हमारा मैंने विकास के साथ साथ ये विरासत भी है. विरासत कैसे देखती हैं आप? 100 वर्ष की ये यात्रा, तो कितनी चुनौतियां आई हैं, आप समझे 1923, यानी कि आजादी के पूर्व की संस्था है ये।
जी
कितनी चुनौतियां झेली होंगी संस्था ने,
जी
कितने शासनकाल देखे होंगे, उसके बावजूद भी ये संस्था आज भी चल रही है।
हम्म
प्रधानमंत्री जी का आज का आना गीता प्रेस में एक चमत्कार जैसा है,
हम्म
और सारा गीता प्रेस परिवार इतना प्रसन्न है, क्या कहा जाए। हमारा इतना आत्मबल बढ़ा है आज कि
जी
100 वर्ष क्या, ऐसे कई सौ वर्ष भी आगे हम चलते रहेंगे, ऐसा हमें पूरा भरोसा है। प्रधानमंत्री जी की ये शुभकामनाएं हमको बड़ा आत्मबल देती है।
जी
जी।
मैं I want to bring in my colleague Aman back into the discussion. Aman, Vikas और विरासत दोनों. This kind of messaging is not new from the Prime Minister. He has always insisted that yes, we can move forward, but we must be very grateful and aware about the cultural roots that we belong to. Done in Varanasi, which was neglected for a very long time.
Absolutely.
The Kashi Vishwanath project, you've written about it so many times, was a very tricky project to actually turn into reality, to execute it on the ground. The development of Manikarnika Ghat, nobody ever really thought about it. There is a deep link to the infrastructure development and the cultural realities of this country.
Absolutely. I think Varanasi is a classic example of that.
Yeah.
When you see the Kashi Vishwanath corridor, I remember the PM inaugurated the corridor. It's also about देश की धरोहर और देश की विरासत को दोबारा जीवित करना, उसको bring that old glory to that place, and which was known for centuries, and also the slew of other modern development projects which have been rolled out in Varanasi. So it's a good balance of that. If you like, I was seeing the Vande Bharat launch in Gorakhpur today, Anusha. Gorakhpur is a place which has never got a Rajdhani, never got a Shatabdi train.
Yeah.
It has straightway got a Vande Bharat, and where is the Vande Bharat having a stoppage in between from Lucknow to Gorakhpur?
Ayodhya.
At Ayodhya.
Yes.
So all these are symbolic. This is a classic case of combining of a development pitch as well as the spiritual pitch with a stoppage in Ayodhya. And we know the Ram temple is going to open in January next year. So all these measures, we have an international airport coming up in Ayodhya very soon. So all these projects are implemented in such a manner that both the ends are met. But the spiritual end is also met, and as well the long development push is also given to states like UP and others.
Pal, talking about the messaging which is there for the 3 pole-bound states, especially talking about the Hindi heartland. This is not a state like Karnataka where there is a language barrier problem. These are Hindi-speaking states, and whatever happens in Uttar Pradesh or the kind of development that we are seeing, and as Aman was talking, I was also reminded of the entire development and redevelopment around the Buddha circuit that the Prime Minister spoke of, or the Buddhist tourism that the Prime Minister said we need to encourage more in our country. In UP specifically, there has been a lot of push on the infrastructure development, at the same time giving boost to local tourism and regional tourism.
UP is the largest state of the country. It is the same state which brings 80 MPs to parliament as well. So that's the kind of a push that you've seen as far as politics is concerned. And there's not been a single Prime Minister who's not come from UP. So that's the kind of significance that the state really has. Having said that, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has often spoken about a development, and he's shown that on ground, whether it's the Kashi Vishwanath corridor or the way in which they're working on the Mathura corridor for now as well. So there are various things that he's spoken about, but yes, the fact remains that there is a double engine Sarkar which has shown its results over there. Yogi has been at it. There's been a complete face lift as far as Gorakhpur is concerned, whether Kashi or Varanasi as they call it, the kind of push that you've seen there as well. So there has been a consistent push as far as that is concerned. As far as the Prime Minister's visit to Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh is concerned, these are 3 opposition ruled states, and obviously the pitch over there for the Prime Minister will be a political pitch as well, given the fact that this has been, these are the 3 states that the BJP lost in the last election, and they want to win them back as well. So today you saw the Prime Minister attacking the dynastic politics. Again, he spoke about corruption in Chhattisgarh. He also spoke about the fact that Bhupesh Baghel remained the CM, but there was no opportunity given to Deo, and he had been given a raw deal. So obviously more and more attacks will come in from the Prime Minister, not only in terms of how the politics is, but obviously he'll talk about the fact that yes, his government is focused on Vikas and Vishwas.
I also want to talk about the importance of brand yogi in these assembly elections. I'll go back to Aman, but before that, Professor Brijbhushan Ojha ji, आपके पास मैं वापस आऊंगी. काशी को और खासकर मंदिर को मैंने पहले भी देखा है जब वहां पर काम शुरू नहीं हुआ था. 2019 के 2020 के पहले भी देखा है और अभी भी देखा है जब बहुत सारा वहां पर निर्माण कार्य हो गया है, बहुत सारी सुविधाएं आज वहां पे लोगों को मिलती हैं. उस मंदिर के पूरे एरिया को, आसपास के एरिया को डेवलप और रीडेवलप किया गया है, पार्किंग की स्पेसेस बनाई गई हैं. मेरे कलीग्स भी इसी बारे में बात कर रहे थे कि एग्जीक्यूट करना, मगर काशी का जो कायाकल्प है वो एक लंबा प्रोजेक्ट है, मगर उसकी शुरुआत हो चुकी है.
जी जी जी, देखिए काशी में लगभग मैं भी 20 साल से हूँ
जी।
और काशी विश्वनाथ मंदिर का ट्रस्टी भी हूँ, तो बहुत करीब से देखने का अवसर मिलता है। निश्चित रूप से आज से 4-5 साल पहले जो विश्वनाथ मंदिर की स्थिति थी, तंग गलियां थी, आने जाने में दिक्कत थी, गंदगी थी, बहुत सारे दिक्कत दर्शनार्थियों को होती रही।
जी।
लेकिन ये अद्भुत और अविश्वसनीय ऐसा कार्य मोदी जी ने और योगी जी ने किया है, जिसके लिए कोई शब्द हम सबके पास नहीं है। आज देखिए, एक भव्यता दिव्यता की अनुभूति होती है और उस विश्वनाथ धाम में जो भी दर्शनार्थी जाता है, मैं यहां तक देखा हूं कि जो विपक्षी दल हैं वहां के भी नेता जब आते हैं तो धीरे से जरूर कहते हैं कि कार्य तो बड़ा अच्छा हुआ है। और उसमें जो एक पूजन विधि है, विधान, वो तो चलता ही है,
जी।
लेकिन वहां पर सरकार की जो दृष्टि है, बना है, आध्यात्मिक पुस्तकालय बना है, 3 ऑडिटोरियम बने हैं, जिसमें निरंतर जो है शैक्षिक, सांस्कृतिक और आध्यात्मिक कार्यक्रम हम सब करते रहते हैं।
जी।
कभी काशी के ऊपर, कभी गोमाता के ऊपर, कभी बाबा विश्वनाथ के ऊपर सेमिनार, संगोष्ठी, और जो भी दर्शनार्थी वीवीआईपी से लेकर के सामान्य व्यक्ति जब आता है
जी।
तो वहां पर संतुष्ट होकर के जाता है। वहां का ट्रस्ट बोर्ड है, वहां का प्रशासन है, निश्चित रूप से माननीय मोदी जी के निर्देशानुसार जो भी दर्शनार्थियों के लिए अच्छा हो सकता हुआ। और इतना ही नहीं, आप देखिए, इस कॉरिडोर के बनने के बाद जो काशी की आध्यात्मिक और पौराणिक चेतना थी वो तो पुनः जागृत हुई है, साथ ही वहां रोजगार उपलब्ध हुए हैं। कहीं भी होटल में जगह नहीं मिल रहा है।
नहीं,
जो
टूरिज्म को जो
गाड़ी
फेसलिफ्ट
चालक,
मिला है वो तो हमने कभी भी नहीं देखा। करोड़ों लोग थे। I was there when the New Year's had come in and Kashi was completely full and completely packed. Aman, I'm coming back to you and talking to you about briefly your thoughts about brand Yogi and how important brand Yogi would be for the BJP, for these 3 states, for the upcoming elections, especially the Hindi heartland.
Yeah, absolutely. I think after brand Modi, the only big other brand in India currently is brand Yogi. There is no doubt about it. You know, the electoral record of Yogi Adityanath speaks about it, to win UP for a second time, which was a historical moment for in the state. Many decades the government had never repeated in UP. Despite the SP-BSP alliance in 2019 Lok
And I
Sabha.
hate to interrupt you there, Raman, but I'm being told that there is some breaking news which is coming in. This is on the Balasore train crash, and CBI sources have indicated that the sectional engineer of Balasore has been arrested along with 2 others. This is the first set of arrests that have happened. About 3 people have been arrested in this. Along with the railway authorities and the police force concerned, the CBI special team was looking into this entire matter. There were questions about what led to this accident. Was it an act of sabotage? Was there technical failure on which this massive tragedy could be blamed upon? There were hundreds of people who had lost their lives. There were more than 1,000 people who were injured. My colleague Arunima with us on the broadcast. Arunima, what more details?
So CBI has arrested these 3 people and accused them of criminal activity under 304 of the IPC and also 201. So essentially destruction of evidence and also culpable homicide are the sections that they have been arrested under. The role of the 3 people: Pappu was a technician, Mohammad Amir Khan was the Soro signal in charge. He was like the junior engineer there. And the third person, Arun Kumar, is also the sectional engineer. So the charge against them is that their action of signal, of the way the signal in that track was maintained, that led to this train accident. Their culpability has been established. And subsequent to the accident, it looks like they stand accused of trying to really hide what they did, hence the charge of destruction of evidence as well. Now we're waiting for CBI to tell us more about the specific instance of crime that these committed allegedly, for which they have been arrested. But at this moment, prima facie, this is what CBI officials are telling us.
Arunima, prima facie, once again, offhand, and your understanding of what the motive was. Was this a technical failure? What are you picking up in terms of the intent with which these crimes have been committed?
So I think that CBI is not yet telling us whether this was intentional. Otherwise, if this was intentional and planned, perhaps they would have slapped 302, the section for murder. But the fact that they have slapped 304 means that they're not saying that this was a conspiracy or this was premeditated. What they're essentially saying is that the action of signal maintenance or the lack of maintenance as required under the rule book, under the guidelines, that itself led to the death of so many people, and therefore there is a criminal culpability made out. Of course, they can go and argue in the court whether the criminal culpability is made out or not, but the CBI officials, prima facie, I do feel that there is criminal culpability, and it's the destruction of evidence charge, I think, which is even more significant. Even if there was a mistake, or even if there was something that you did, and if you subsequently went to hide that, then that's the most stringent charge. And that's what CBI has slapped on them, destruction of evidence. Like I said, we're still waiting to know from them exactly what is the specific crime that each one is accused of.
Right.
There is one sectional engineer, one junior engineer in charge of signal, and one technician.
I'm sure this is not the only set of arrests which would be made. Are you getting indications about any other arrests that could be done?
Not yet. In fact, the way CBI started investigating, when they reached the spot, they had sealed the signal room. They had taken charge of the documents and the technical area from where signal was really operated upon. Even the residents of the suspects, like there was a lot of chatter in the locality about Mohammed Amir Khan. He was the junior engineer in charge of signals there. His CBI scrutiny to try and figure out if CBI could pick up any evidence. They were looking whether this was a conspiracy or not.
Right.
But so far, we have not been told if they have found any traces of any conspiracy, any premeditated thought, and whether there will be more people who would be held accountable. At this stage, officials are not really telling us anything.
So Arunima, so far no clarity in terms of, or no conclusive clarity in terms of motive and how this crime was committed. Was there a real intention to do though? But you're pointing out 304 has been slapped. What are the other sections? Could you take us through them?
Yes, 304 and 201 is what they're confirming. Those are the two sections that are being, 120B, the charge for criminal conspiracy, it has not been slapped. That's what CBI officials are telling us.
Okay.
And the way this was planned, I think, prima facie, what the CBI has found out after going on ground is that this accident happened because of a signaling issue. The way the trains sent from the main line to the loop line, the way it was missed that a goods train was already there, the two passenger trains coming on the same side, they have established that this was a signaling issue, and that this signaling issue was known to the three people who have been arrested. They knew this was the reason why so many people lost their lives. And even after knowing that, they tried to cover their track, they tried to cover their trail by not confiding in authorities, and hence the charge of destruction of evidence.
All right. So the fact that they did not share the information that they had is being construed as the destruction of evidence, as Arunima is pointing out. Arunima, ever since that very unfortunate accident, one of the worst that we've seen in the last 3 to 4 decades has happened, there were a slew of theories that were doing the rounds, and that's why CBI was roped in. Could you take us through the passage of the inquiry? What were the twists and turns that we have seen?
See, from the moment this accident happened, there was Ashwini Vaishnav, the railway minister himself, came out and said that this accident happened because it looked like there was kind of a sabotage attempt. And this was a question that was repeatedly asked, that if this was sabotage, are you indicating towards a conspiracy? Are you indicating that somebody deliberately carried out the sabotage, and would this then not be a fit case for NIA to investigate? But the government stuck with ground. It got CBI on board, and while investigating the sabotage theory, it reached the stage where these 3 arrests have been made today. The sense that we are getting after speaking to the CBI officials is that there was a signaling issue which led to this particular accident, and 3 people who were in charge of the signaling system, they have been held accountable and they have been arrested. There is nothing to suggest at this stage that this was premeditated or this was a conspiracy or they had discussed this, because that makes it even more significant. If that was the charge, then it would have been 302. There would have been other charges brought in as well. So that is not the indication that we are being given, that this was premeditated. However, they were aware that there was an issue why this accident happened. There was an issue with the signaling system, and they tried to cover their tracks. That, I think, makes their crime even more improbable. And that's why, and the CBI will argue this when this matter reaches a court of law. We'll have to wait and see how the 3 suspects defend themselves.
My colleague Kamalika Sengupta is also joining us on the broadcast, getting us more details on the story. Kamalika, I remember you had covered the story from the site of the accident. What a great human tragedy it was. Hundreds of people who had lost their lives and their loved ones would be looking for answers. This is the beginning. 3 arrests have been done.
Yeah, obviously. And specifically, if you remember, when we did our stories from there, we were constantly trying to show in our whatever investigation we were also doing, this thing was coming up, that was it a human error or a human intervention. So in this thing, I still remember that the level crossing gates. We went there and investigated that there was some work going on this level crossing gates. And when the green signal became, suddenly the green signal was lifted from this place, why it was lifted, whether there was a attempt of managing any errors, that thing was coming up constantly in whatever investigation we were doing, like whatever we were talking to the local people, and they were all saying that there was some work going on. So there was a hush thing going on there in the railway people. So now that 3 people have been arrested, it is clear that there is a huge human negligence, for which the CBI have arrested them. So, hundreds and people died, and it's a huge tragedy.
Right.
So definitely, this is definitely a big catch for the CBI.
A big catch for the CBI. Arunima also continues to stay with us on the broadcast for the benefit of the viewers who have just joined in on this piece of breaking news coming in on Viewpoint tonight. 3 people have been arrested so far. The CBI has made these crucial arrests in the Balasore train tragedy that had unfolded, in which hundreds of people had lost their life. About 1,000 people were injured. The Central Bureau of Investigation was investigating this matter, looking at different angles and what exactly led to the accident. At that time, you'd remember there were demands from different political quarters. It was asked that how can we fix the accountability. My colleague Arunima with us with all the details. Arunima, once again, back to you. Give us a sense of the arrests which have been made. Who are these key people who have been arrested and the sections against them?
The people who have been arrested are from the signals section. These are the signals and the telecommunication department, it seems, has been held accountable for the accident that happened. 3 people who have been arrested: Arun Kumar, he was a sectional engineer in charge; Mohammad Amir Khan, he was the junior engineer in charge of the Soro section; and Pappu Kumar, a technician. These are the 3 people whose arrests have been confirmed by the CBI. Essentially, what is being said, preliminarily, what the investigation seems to suggest is that there was a signaling issue at the point of crossover between the Coromandel Express when it entered the loop line. It was supposed to enter the main line, but instead it entered the loop line. And the reason this happened was because there was a signaling issue. And these 3 people who've been arrested have been held accountable for that human error, for giving the wrong signal. And the more significant charge is that it could have been a human error, it could have been a genuine mistake, but the charge of destruction of evidence, that they then turned around and tried to cover their tracks, that makes it even more, damaging for them. That could make it more difficult for them to defend in a court of law.
All right, Arunima stays with us on the broadcast. I also have Akash and Payal with us on the show to give us more perspective. Akash, first to you, what are the details that you have?
At this point in time, we are learning about these arrests. In fact, Arunima was talking about these arrests. But Anusha, you see, this was such an incident where, in fact, everyone was raising questions on the, security lapses. In fact, a CRS report that we reported just 2 days earlier was pointing out some sort of lapses in the signaling department. In fact, it was categorically said that there were 2 specific incidents after which this sort of accident happened. First one was in 2018 when we got to know that some sort of shift in the circuit happened, and at that time some sort of wrong names were given to the circuit. And similarly, on the very same day when this accident happened, just few hours before the particular accident, some sort of maintenance work was carried out, and in that, multiple lapses happened. In fact, the circuit map that was mandatory at that point in time was not provided to the department, and that's the reason why CRS, in fact, pointed out that there were multiple lapses in the S&T department that led to the particular accident. But now this is big that CBI has arrested basically multiple individuals in this particular case, because you see, everyone was talking about the accountability. We know that this was somewhere the responsibility of S&T department, but now this is the time of accountability and action. And now, as of now, CBI has arrested these individuals, and we'll get to know as to what are these charges but this is something big that CBI has arrested these three individuals.
I want to quickly cut across to my colleague Payal as well. Payal, the fact that CBI was roped in points out to the deep political allegations that were made. And there were also a lot of questions about whether any kind of probe, if conducted and when conducted on this incident, would it really have any kind of reliability? And hence CBI was roped in.
Well, of course, looking at the nature of the accident and given the fact that there's such a big human tragedy, and there were allegations saying that, normally you order probes and the probes take months and after months to come in, and nothing happens and no accountability is fixed. But you have seen the report that has been sought by the railways. It talks about negligence, but the railways has been tight-lipped as far as the entire probe is concerned because they were still waiting for the CBI. The CBI was roped in obviously because political pressure also came in a long way as well. And that is one of the reasons not one minister but three ministers were rushed in by Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the accident site to look after the rescue relief and also, take into account various details as well. Ashwini Vaishnav at that point in time had made one promise saying that nobody who is responsible for this will be spared. The railway still maintains, in a way, my sources are telling me the railway still maintains that this was actually a negligence or probably this was just a human error. But they were still waiting to see what the CBI really says because the investigation beyond a certain purview can only be done by the CBI, not by the railways through their report.
All right, I'll take one final word from my colleague Akash as well, who's with us on the broadcast. Akash, I remember those communications coming in from Indian Railways, special report that was sought in, various questions that were raised about the anti-collision technology that the Indian Railways had and why didn't it really work. Give us the details about that have emerged from Indian Railways so far and how does it weave together the chain of instances that unfolded that led to this incident. What are the answers that we have?
Right. So as far as, Kavach technology that you are talking about, so railways, categorically said that, at this point in time, we are rolling out this particular, technology in phase-wise manner. And, we have the funds sanctioned for the same. And a number of other steps have been taken. But this particular incident was raising a number of questions. In fact, not just questions on the on rail minister, but also on different departments of railways. Because as of now, S&T department and operation department are the two departments in question. And it has been categorically said that while this was a mistake and these were the lapses by S&T department, there was some sort of negligence on station master's part because on the very same day, you see, Anusha, on the very same day, the panel showed some sort of unusual behavior. The point operation that generally takes just 13-14 seconds on the same day at around 4:20 p.m. The point operation, took more than 30 seconds. So there were several sort of lapses. In fact, not just on S&T departments, not just S&T department, but station master was in fact categorically mentioned in the particular report that had it been the case that station master has pointed out the unusual behavior on the panel, this accident could have been averted. But as of now, everyone is looking for some sort of conclusive report by the CBI, and everyone is hopeful that the real truth as to who is accountable and who was the person because of whom this particular accident happened. Everyone is looking for that.
All right, my colleague Akash Sharma getting us all the details. The CBI has made 3 arrests in this case so far. These are all individuals from the signalling department of the Indian Railways who are allegedly responsible for their deeds and for the misdemeanor. We'll continue tracking that story and much more, slipping into a very short break.
प्रदेश सरकार में नगर विकास और ऊर्जा विभाग के मंत्री श्री के शर्मा जी, अनिल राजभर जी, केंद्रीय मंत्री प्रोफेसर एसपी सिंह बघेल जी, प्रदेश सरकार में ही मेरे सहयोगी मंत्रीगण श्री रविंद्र जायसवाल जी, दयाशंकर मिश्र दयालु जी, माननीय सांसद और विधायकगण और उपस्थित भाइयों बहनों, पावन सावन के माह में बाबा विश्वनाथ की इस पावन धरा पर काशी को मेरी काशी के रूप में वैश्विक मान्यता देने वाले आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का मैं उत्तर प्रदेश सरकार और आप सभी की ओर से हृदय से स्वागत करता हूं, अभिनंदन करता हूं। भाइयों बहनों, संस्कृति और समृद्धि का एक नया रूप आज काशी के अंदर, प्रदेश के अंदर और देश के अंदर देखने को मिल रहा है। भारत को दुनिया के अंदर आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के नेतृत्व में एक नई पहचान और एक नया सम्मान मिल रहा है और विकास और विरासत की जिस परंपरा की शुरुआत 2014 में आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने इस काशी से प्रारंभ किया, आज उसकी एक नई कड़ी को जोड़ने के लिए जब आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी स्वयं फिर से अपनी काशी में आए हैं, मैं काशी वासियों की ओर से आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का हृदय से स्वागत करता हूं, अभिनंदन करता हूं। भाइयों बहनों, देश की 140 करोड़ जनता को उसका गौरव और सम्मान दिलाने वाले, वैश्विक स्तर पर अपनी अंतर्राष्ट्रीय और राष्ट्रीय व्यस्तता के बावजूद काशी वासी आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के आत्मा में, अंतःकरण में विराजते हैं। हर समय काशी की समृद्धि के लिए, यहां की विरासत और यहां की संस्कृति के लिए उनके मन में एक नई चिंता होती है। और भाइयों बहनों, आज यह चिंता और ये चिंतन हम सबको एक नई पहचान के रूप में आगे बढ़ा रही है। आपने देखा होगा काशी विश्वनाथ धाम आज दुनिया को अपनी ओर आकर्षित कर रहा है। आपने देखा होगा काशी के मंदिरों और काशी के घाटों के नए स्वरूप को, और जैसे काशी सज धज रही है, G20 के सम्मेलन को भी नजदीक से काशी ने महसूस किया है। आजादी के अमृत महोत्सव वर्ष में भारत G20 समूह की अध्यक्षता आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के नेतृत्व में कर रहा है, तो संघाई सहयोग परिषद की ओर से 22-23 में काशी को सांस्कृतिक राजधानी के रूप में मान्यता देकर के काशी में उस सम्मेलन की अद्भुत छटा भी हम सब ने देखी है। काशी अपनी पुरातन काया के साथ साथ नए कलेवर के रूप में आगे बढ़ने का कार्य कर रही है, और आज काशी में 12,000 करोड़ रुपए से अधिक की परियोजनाओं को लेकर के आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का आगमन एक बार फिर से हुआ है। भाइयों बहनों, 9 वर्ष की, पिछले 9 वर्ष के अंदर नए भारत के रूप में भारत को नई पहचान दिलाने का जो कार्य आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने किया है, 9 वर्ष के अपने सफलतम कार्यकाल के बाद आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी आज काशी में पधारे हैं। इन 9 वर्षों में आपने देखा होगा दुनिया के अंदर देश के अलग अलग क्षेत्रों में, चाहे वह इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का हो, बाह्य सुरक्षा का हो, आंतरिक सुरक्षा का हो या गरीब कल्याण का हो, विरासत और आस्था के सम्मान का हो, हर एक मोर्चे पर भारत ने एक नई सफलता की नई कहानी गढ़ी है। आज भारत के बारे में दुनिया का दृष्टिकोण बदला है। आज उत्तर प्रदेश के बारे में आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के नेतृत्व और मार्गदर्शन के कारण भारत और दुनिया की धारणा बदली है और काशी के बारे में भी लोगों की धारणाएं बदली हैं। काशी जिस आस्था के लिए भारत तरसता था, आज उसका मूर्त रूप काशी में काशी विश्वनाथ धाम के रूप में हम सबको देखने को मिलता है। इस अवसर पर एक बार जब काशी को ढेर सारी सौगात राष्ट्र को समर्पित करने के लिए आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का आगमन आज काशी की इस धरा पर हुआ है, बाबा विश्वनाथ की इस पावन धरा पर हुआ है, मैं इस अवसर पर आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का एक बार फिर से आप सबकी ओर से हृदय से स्वागत करता हूं, अभिनंदन करता हूं। इस अवसर पर पधारी माननीय राज्यपाल महोदय का, अपने सभी माननीय केंद्रीय मंत्रियों और जनप्रतिनिधियों का और आप सभी जनता जनार्दन का भी हृदय से स्वागत और अभिनंदन करते हुए अपनी वाणी को विराम देता हूं। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद माननीय मुख्यमंत्री महोदय आपके प्रेरणादायी उद्बोधन के लिए। साथियों, भारतीय रेल देश की प्रगति का इंजन है और माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के सशक्त एवं समृद्ध भारत के विजन को साकार करते हुए लॉजिस्टिक्स सेक्टर को नई मजबूती प्रदान करने की दिशा में आगे बढ़ रही है। आइए देखते हैं इसी पर एक शॉर्ट फिल्म।
नए भारत की नई रेलवे तेजी से आगे बढ़ रही है, नए तरीकों और तकनीकों से विकास कर रही है। प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के वर्ल्ड क्लास और एनवायरमेंट फ्रेंडली रेलवे के विजन को साकार करने के लिए चरणबद्ध प्रयास कर रही है। इस विजन को उत्तर प्रदेश 8,700 करोड़ से अधिक लागत के कई रेल प्रोजेक्ट्स के लोकार्पण और शिलान्यास से आगे बढ़ा रहा है। उत्तर प्रदेश में करीब 390 करोड़ रुपए की लागत से गाजीपुर सिटी औड़िहार लाइन का दोहरीकरण और विद्युतीकरण किया गया। इससे सारनाथ और वाराणसी के बीच कनेक्टिविटी बढ़ेगी। साथ ही पंडित दीनदयाल जंक्शन प्रयागराज लाइन पर लोड कम होगा। तकरीबन 240 करोड़ रुपए की लागत से भटनी औड़िहार रेल खंड की 125 किलोमीटर लंबी लाइन के विद्युतीकरण से इस रूट पर परिचालन बेहतर होगा। इन परियोजनाओं के पूर्ण होने से यूपी ने 100% विद्युतीकरण का लक्ष्य हासिल कर लिया है, जिससे कि प्रदेश में चलने वाली ट्रेनों में इंजन बदलने की प्रक्रिया से मुक्ति मिलेगी और यात्रा समय एवं संसाधन दोनों की बचत होगी।
साल 2014 के बाद हमने रेलवे को
विकास और विरासत एक साथ, to take your heritage and development together. That's the message that Prime Minister has taken to the people of Varanasi. That's his constituency. And a slew of development projects have been undertaken. As I was earlier talking with my colleagues, about 500 projects. That's what the Prime Minister looks forward to. And in the run-up to the Assembly elections, looking forward to this grand finale of 2024 Lok Sabha election, the key development push, infrastructure development, is going to be very important. I want to cut across to Arun Anand, consulting editor of the First Post, Tanvi Prati, who is the political analyst, joining us on the broadcast. Good evening to both of you. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. Arunji, first to you. How do you see the Prime Minister's visit and what is the message that he's taking?
I think the Prime Minister's visit is a clear indication that the BJP is going to contest the 2024 elections primarily on the agenda of development. A lot of people are making a guess, especially after the issue of UCC has come up, that probably BJP would be pushing more towards agenda of Hindutva. But I think the Prime Minister continues to have confidence that a new class of voters which they have created, what they call the Labharthis or the beneficiaries. So that is the class which they are going to focus on, and that cuts across caste, creed, religion, region. So this what is happening today in Varanasi, and earlier he went to Gita Press also.
Gorakhpur, yeah.
So whatever is happening and whatever tone and tenor of the speech of Prime Minister is there, and now he's then launching a lot of development projects also. So the overall, the agenda would be led by development, and probably Hindutva would be dovetailed into it.
All right, Arun, I want you to stay with us on the broadcast. Tanvi, coming to you as well. It's not just development, building skyscrapers and highways and roads. Yes, that's being done. But look at the focus. I mean, there was never a Rajdhani or any big train that was going through Gorakhpur, and it all started with Vande Bharat. There's connectivity project in Ayodhya as well, which is one of the stopovers. In Varanasi, we have spoken about and we have seen the kind of infrastructure development, the Clean Ganga project or the Kashi Vishwanath corridor project, the manner in which they've been focused upon by the government, not just infrastructure creation, the manner in which it's been done has a huge messaging from the BJP and from the government.
Capital expenditure has been huge in Modi government, and I will not even, debate on that. But honestly, this is the least a double-engine sarkar can do, considering UP sends most number of member of parliaments to MPs to the parliament, right? However, we have to look away from the media hype and look at the real numbers because they tell a different story. The capital expenditure in Uttar Pradesh has not been matched by similar kind of private investment under Yogi Adityanath's first term, 2017 to 2022. UP's GDP growth rate averaged 3.2% per annum, whereas in 2012 to 17, the GDP growth rate was 6.9%, exactly double of what is happening now. So, so you can't just focus on just making roads or just bringing up big projects. You have to affect people, at large, at how their lives are being affected, how
So,
their
Tanvi,
lifestyle is being affected.
how do you see the argument that there are various Labharthis that Arun Anand was talking about, and these beneficiaries of the social schemes cut across religion and caste lines? These are people who are from the underprivileged sections of the society, and the government has focused and ensured that they get at least the basic means of survival and a good life. How do you see that part of the development push?
Again, that has to be reflected in the numbers of Uttar Pradesh government. I'm quoting numbers from the website. You look at the numbers regarding the manufacturing sector. You look at the beneficiaries. The life management, the lifestyle of Uttar Pradesh people. Has it improved the kind of the infrastructure push that the Prime Minister and Yogi Adityanath ji are trying to do in Uttar Pradesh? So numbers tell a different story, and I think that will be reflected in the results in 2024 elections.
That will be reflected. Arun, do you agree with that criticism that there is a lot of hype, but in terms of getting the real investments in the state of Uttar Pradesh, I remember a lot of conclaves have been held that private investment should come to UP. But has that really happened? Capital expenditure indeed has gone up. I don't think anybody can debate that.
No, one significant thing which you have to notice is that they have plugged the leakages. So even if the amount has not gone up substantially, I do not have the exact data, but on ground the impact is much more, because earlier what used to happen, there were a lot of leakages, but now those leakages have been stopped. And if you ask people on the ground that whether they are feeling the impact in their day-to-day lives or not. For example, I'll just give you a small example. There's so many people who travel between Delhi and Kanpur. It used to take 8 to 10 hours, to travel, but now by road you can travel by 4.5 or 5 hours. So that saves you. And now with these Vande Bharat trains, so I personally also experienced in terms of traveling. So one is that. Second is that one of the biggest issues in Uttar Pradesh was law and order, and law and order is a fundamental thing which you have to correct. You have to have a robust law and order situation, so that if you would really want to attract investment. That was one of the key reasons that investments were not coming. Third thing is that whenever the capital expenditure happens or the big infrastructure project happens, there is a long gestation period. The real results you would see, in next 10 to 15 years. It takes time for such projects. So there are a lot of such projects which are getting launched. And as far as the hype is concerned, I think we should not, underestimate the rationality or the level of understanding of Indian voters. So if they are electing that government back, and that too, and even at the local level elections, BJP has been winning hands down. So it's a clear indication, that people are realizing that there is a positive impact. Otherwise, why would they vote for BJP?
All right. Prime Minister Narendra Modi there on the dais. He's set to inaugurate some crucial development projects. Let's try and dip into that ceremony.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद माननीय प्रधानमंत्री महोदय। 12,110 करोड़ की 29 विकास परियोजनाओं का तोहफा प्रदेशवासियों को। एक जोरदार तालियां। बेहतर भविष्य के विजन और सेवा भाव के साथ माननीय प्रधानमंत्री महोदय के कुशल।
About 29 development projects worth about 12,000 crore rupees have been inaugurated today, and this includes a flyover, it includes various drinking water schemes, a dedicated freight corridor. There's also a section of the railway line, not to forget the Manikarnika Ghat and the Harish Chandra Ghat in Kashi, which are set to get a facelift. These are important projects that will be undertaken in Varanasi, but this is not just limited to Varanasi. The development and infrastructure projects cut across through the entire state. Tanvi, coming back to you, you were talking about the fact that you have to look at the capital expenditure, you have to look beyond the hype. Across the world, if there is any kind of infrastructure that needs to be created, that is created by the government. Private sector is rarely interested in creating infrastructure. There can be partnerships that can be looked at. DMRC or metro is a good example, but those are urban concepts. The kind of focus, for example, in Varanasi, and I've seen the city before and after the Prime Minister became a member of parliament from here, there's a huge development. You can't deny that. The manner in which roads have got a facelift, the manner in which Kashi Vishwanath project has taken off. I mean, look at the number of tourists who visit Kashi today. They are crores in number. We have never seen those numbers in a city like Varanasi.
I completely agree with what you have said, but sadly, UP is not just about Varanasi or the roads built there or the tourism. We have to look, UP is a state where you have, surplus of labor. So you need to push in private investment. You need to build up the manufacturing sector, bring industries and services and construction and continue the construction activities so that, in the rural households, people get jobs. So, just some data again I want to cite, that during the 2017 to 2022 period, the manufacturing was actually in negative 1.3%. And before that, in 2012 to 17, it was 14.6%. So I do not agree that capital expenditure.
So what is the period? What is the period you're saying it was in negative? I missed that part.
I'm saying that the annual growth rate in the output of the key economic sectors during, the Akhilesh Yadav tenure and and Yogi Adityanath tenure, I can, the manufacturing sector, it suffered a lot in the first tenure of Yogi Adityanath. In the industry sector, it was hardly 0.6% the annual growth rate.
What is also the pandemic years are you talking about?
Yes, 2017 to 2022.
Right.
The pandemic years was 2020 to 22, but
that's right.
17, 18, I'm also including in that.
17, 18 also you're including in that. Mr. Arun Anand, I'm coming back to you and I'm talking to you about the infrastructure push, which is going to be one of the key things that BJP is going to present to the voters and say, look, we are not just about the agenda of the Hindutva or the UCC that we are talking about, the Ram Temple construction. We have also done and delivered tangibles, creation of roads, flyovers, better connectivity, better infrastructure, the Labharti schemes or the beneficiary schemes, the direct benefit, scheme transfer that you were talking about has been one of the key things that the Prime Minister has taken to the people. Do you think that will work in the Hindi heartland specifically?
See, that will work anywhere actually. The direct benefit transfer schemes. If you look at the politics of the South India in 1960s, so some of though they were started as freebies, and here it's a DBT kind, which is a different kind of a scheme. Yeah. But ultimately, it's a welfare state, and see what matter, as they say, for a hungry man, utopia is a world full of food. So ultimately, when 800 million people are, getting rations for the last couple of years, and they don't have to pay anything for it, and it is not a freebie, but what they have done, very few people know that the earlier what used to happen during the UPA or the Congress regimes, that the FCI godowns, the food grains used to rot there, and deliberately the C category food grains were sent to then the alcohol makers, and they used to, and there was kind of it was a whole mafia which was operating. And now you see the same food grain is now utilized by, and instead of reaching to the breweries, it is now reaching to the homes of the poor people. I also want to tell, my co-panelist was talking about, so I just had the opportunity to look at the data.
Sure.
Between 2017 to 2021, it's a 4.5 lakh crore of investment has come to Uttar Pradesh. I think that's a humongous number, and it is all private investment.
No,
It
is
not
that is that
government
investment notional, or it has actually reached the state? Because a
No,
lot
it
of
has
it,
reached.
yeah.
It has reached there. The minister has been there on record saying that it has reached there. It is not that the MOUs have been signed.
All right, the visuals on the
Has
screen
reached
right
there.
now, the Prime Minister is handing over certain loan approval letters to the beneficiary of PM Vanithi vendors, and these are also appreciation certificates of some special schemes that the government has launched for digital transactions. The visuals on the screen right now. There are also Ayushman card beneficiaries who would be called on the stage, but these are special initiatives and national schemes in the state of Uttar Pradesh that have been engineered under the double engine ki sarkar and the promise that the Prime Minister and UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath has made. Tanvi, a quick point from you.
The double engine sarkar that they constantly talk about, again, it has to be we have seen it in Karnataka, how it failed terribly. In the states, where the elections are coming this year, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, BJP is in a soup. So clearly, this double engine sarkar is only a media hype, a creation, where they just do such big events and just push in some capital expenditure coming from the central government. Again, the Prime Minister needs to look at the real problems of the country, the real problems of the economy, create jobs, create employment opportunities. Only then we can say that, yes, whatever the government is trying to push is giving some results.
All right, Tanvi and Mr. Arunanand, thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you for sharing your perspective. Taking the broadcast forward is my colleague Poonam with Plain Speak.
Good evening, hello and welcome. You're watching CNN News 18. This is Plain Speak with me, Poonam Burde, and those visuals on your screens are coming in from Varanasi. The Prime Minister there in his home constituency handing out cards of Ayushman Bharat. It is the health insurance scheme of the central government. We are seeing the kind of push that has been made for connectivity, for infrastructure. This is not the first engagement of the Prime Minister today. In fact, we saw him in Gorakhpur just a short while ago, along with flagging off a few more Vande Bharats for this particular event. We are now going to be seeing the Prime Minister address a gathering in his home constituency as well. But before we cut across to what the Prime Minister has to say,